In 1633, Sultan Murad IV banned coffee in Istanbul. The penalty? Death. A sip could cost your head. But why? The answer isn't the drink, it's power, paranoia, and the ideas brewing in every cup. This is quilled history, the stories the textbooks quietly left out. But here's the twist. Murad wasn't the first. Mecca banned it in 1511, Cairo in 1539. The real reason? Coffeehouses bred rebellion. And for a sultan who seized power through uprisings, that was a threat he couldn't ignore. The official story? Fire hazard? Wooden buildings, open flames, one spark and half of Istanbul burns. That was the excuse. The truth? Murad knew how easily a crowd turns into a revolution. And that fear had a name, the coffeehouse. By 1633, Istanbul's coffeehouses were spaces where any man could talk politics, philosophy, gossip. To Murad, they weren't cafes. They were factories for dissent. So he banned the gathering itself. What made a coffeehouse so dangerous? Step inside one in 1633. Anyone could walk in. Merchants, soldiers, scholars. They'd sit, sip, and talk about politics, about power, about the Sultan himself. In a society where rank meant everything, these rooms flattened it all. But that's just talk, right? Not in Murad's eyes. He'd been placed on the throne by uprisings. And by the 1630s, Istanbul had over 600 coffeehouses, 600 rooms where authority could be questioned. To a paranoid sultan, that was kindling. So Murad shut down the coffeehouses, closed the taverns, imposed curfews. But he never banned coffee wholesale, just the places where people gathered, because it wasn't the drink he feared, it was the ideas. How far would Murad go? He disguised himself as a commoner, stalked the streets, and beheaded anyone caught sipping coffee, the most powerful man in the empire, playing executioner in the shadows. And that's the catch. He couldn't win. Coffee had woven itself into daily life. Even he, the Sultan, secretly indulged in the very vices he outlawed. His war on coffee was as much about his own demons as it was about control. Why did Murad IV, who banned coffee on pain of death, secretly drink it himself? Behind closed doors, he indulged in coffee, tobacco, and alcohol. It's a contradiction that reveals his paranoia and desperate need for control. And that hypocrisy may have cost him his life. In 1640, at just 27, Murad IV died. Some say cirrhosis, others alcohol poisoning. The very substances he banned and secretly consumed likely contributed to his demise. Why did nobody stop Murad? Because he wasn't the first. Coffee was banned in Mecca in 1511, Cairo in 1539. Wherever coffee spread, authorities panicked. They feared the conversations, the mixing of classes, the dangerous ideas. But here's the kicker. Murad's ban didn't work. He died in 1640, and the ban was lifted soon after. Coffeehouses reopened. The bans were always temporary, always failing. You can't outlaw a habit that millions love. The bean won. After Murad's death, his successor lifted the ban, and coffeehouses sprang back. Coffee spread to Europe, where it fueled revolutions. By the 17th century, London had over 3,000 coffeehouses, called penny universities. The ideas Murad feared conquered the world. But here's the twist. The bans didn't kill coffee, they made it stronger. European coffee consumption exploded from a few thousand tons to over 100,000 tons by 1700. Every attempt to suppress it backfired, turning coffee into a symbol of resistance. But Murad didn't just rely on spies. He took to the streets himself, disguised as a common soldier or merchant, to catch coffee drinkers in the act. He'd wander the back alleys of Istanbul, listening for the telltale clink of cups, and when he found a violator, he'd order an immediate beheading on the spot. His own hands were stained with coffee drinkers' blood, a fact that both terrified and fascinated his subjects. This wasn't just policy, it was personal obsession. But the bans didn't stop at coffee. Murad also imposed strict curfews, forbidding anyone from venturing out after dark. The streets of Istanbul, once alive with the murmur of coffeehouses, fell silent. Anyone caught outside after hours faced severe punishment, even death. This was a city under lockdown, where the Sultan's paranoia turned every shadow into a potential conspirator. The curfews were another tool to crush the gatherings he feared most. making it nearly impossible for dissent to take root. But the ban came at a terrible price. Historians estimate that thousands of people were executed during Murad's reign for violating his coffee decree. The streets of Istanbul ran with the blood of those who dared to defy the Sultan's will. Yet, despite this brutal enforcement, the ban never truly succeeded. Coffee remained a staple of Ottoman life, and his own subjects continued to find ways to enjoy it in secret. The Sultan's campaign was a losing battle from the start, and the cost was measured in human lives. And coffeehouses weren't just places for political talk. Some of them doubled as brothels, and others served hash-infused coffee, creating an early speedball of stimulants and depressants. This added another layer to Murad's fear. These establishments were not only politically subversive, but also morally corrupting, at least in his eyes. The Sultan saw them as dens of vice where his subjects could be led astray, both in body and mind. So his ban wasn't just about silencing dissent, it was about controlling the very morality of his people. But why was Murad so paranoid? Because he knew firsthand how rebellions start. He had been placed on the throne in 1623, when he was just 11, after a series of uprisings toppled his predecessor. His own mother and grandmother were deeply involved in the political intrigues of the court. So, when he saw coffeehouses buzzing with talk, he didn't see harmless chatter. He saw the seeds of the next revolt. He had seen what happened when people gathered and questioned authority, and he was determined not to let it happen again. And here's the ultimate irony. While Murad publicly condemned coffee, tobacco, and alcohol, he privately indulged in all of them. His personal physician recorded that the Sultan would sneak sips of coffee in his private chambers. This hypocrisy wasn't lost on his courtiers, who whispered about his double life. Even the ruthless have cravings. But why was coffee so threatening? Because it was a drug. In the 17th century, coffee was a powerful stimulant that kept people awake and alert, and it was often mixed with other substances like hashish. This combination could lead to altered states of mind, making people more talkative, more rebellious, and more willing to challenge authority. In a society where the Sultan demanded absolute obedience, a drink that made people think and speak freely was a direct threat to his power. So Murad wasn't just banning a beverage, he was banning a mindset. But Murad's ban wasn't just a historical footnote, it set a precedent for future coffee bans around the world. In the 17th and 18th centuries, several European monarchs tried to suppress coffeehouses, fearing they were hotbeds of revolution. In 1675, Charles II of England briefly banned coffeehouses, but public outrage forced him to back down. So Murad's failed experiment became a lesson for other rulers. You can't suppress ideas with force. The more you try, the more they spread. And that lesson echoes down to our own time. And look at where coffee is today. It's the second most traded commodity in the world, after oil. Over 25 billion cups are consumed every day. Coffee has become a global ritual, a social lubricant, a fuel for productivity. The very ideas that Murad tried to suppress, free thought, open conversation, social mixing, are now celebrated in coffeehouses from Seattle to Seoul. So in a way, Murad lost more than a battle. He lost the war. Coffee didn't just survive his ban, it conquered the world. So what does Murad's story teach us? That power is fleeting, but ideas are eternal. Murad IV wielded absolute authority, yet he couldn't stop a simple bean from reshaping society. His ban, his patrols, his executions, all were in vain. Coffeehouses reopened, coffee spread, and the conversations he feared became the foundation of modern democracy. In the end, the Sultan who tried to silence dissent was silenced by history, while the coffeehouse became a symbol of freedom. That's a lesson worth remembering. So what's the lesson? Ideas are unstoppable. Murad tried to silence dissent, but the conversations kept happening. Today, coffee is the world's most popular drink, with over 2 billion cups daily. Every cup you sip is a tiny act of rebellion. So drink up and subscribe for more stories of history's strangest bans. History keeps better stories than the syllabus. Subscribe. Next up, the real pirate code of the Caribbean.